I like those Middle East spices, so I'm going to make a braised flat iron steak, because that's the only way you can eat it, or stew. It's too tough to be really called steak. With potatoes and Za'atar and sumac, Middle East spices. But mine is going to be with a little American flavor added to it. So these are some of the ingredients you see. Fresh tomato, onions, peppers, potato, Za'atar, which I'm going to sprinkle on after the meat is brown, because I don't want any of the spices to burn, because first I'm going to brown the meat. The skillet's getting hot, very hot, and we're going to just put some salt and pepper on the meat. It may look like a lot, but guess what? That shrinks up like unbelievably. Especially, not especially, it just does. And I put a little salt on there. The salt and pepper doesn't burn when you're sauteing. But a lot of spices and things similar, they do. So I season both sides of the meat. And now we're going to put it in that hot pan, brown it off, put it back into this pan I have here, and then brown the vegetables. And everything's going to be cooked into this pan. The hotter the better. It gives it that nice seared flavor that you love so much. Very high flame. So it's browning a little. We're going to brown both sides well. By the time I'm finished, that meat should just fit in the pan. Well, notice the meat now fits in the pan and both sides are nice and brown. Now we're going to lower the flame because we're going to put the vegetables in here. Sweat them up a little bit to get all the flavor out of them. And then we're going to add a little bit of liquid because it's braised, meaning it's not boiled. So you just put enough moisture in there and slowly cook it. Now everything has to be seasoned. Now we just added all of this vegetable, so of course you now have to put a little salt and pepper in there to your taste. I always go light on the salt. This is great sea salt. I always comment on it. See, it's not white, hasn't been refined as much. Very good stuff. I bought it online. Anyway, I go easy on the salt because whenever my wife eats any of the food that I make, I never add more salt, but she does. I like the natural flavor of everything. I know the salt brings out the flavor. Yes, it does. So I put just enough to bring out the flavor, but not to make it where it's too much salt. So this is going to cook up a little. Then after we put the tomatoes in there, the Ataar, I'm going to put this in, and the sumac, because that's not going to burn. The flame is not high. And the fresh tomato. Like I said, this is a cross between Middle East cooking and me. You get the flavor of that lemony flavor of the Za'atar and the spice, the sumac, and all of this is good right there. And then we put the meat on top. And the potatoes, use your favorite potato. We'll make a little room here. Potatoes are great. They could cook for hours and not fall apart, as long as you don't smash them. And since we have this water right here, we're going to put some of this in there. It has a nice aroma already. And as long as it has a great aroma, that means the dish is going to be tasty. That's it. Now that comes to a boil quickly. Then I'm going to cover it and simmer it. Maybe every half hour I'm going to check it to make sure it hasn't dried out. Just need a little moisture in there. And that's simple. So bring this to a boil, simmer it, cover it, and I'll be back in a half hour. Well, it's been about a half hour. Of course, that meat is still hard. But notice, it seems to be more liquid in there than when we started. I would assume that's because as everything breaks down, it turns into water, all the vegetables. But that's no problem. When we're done, if there's a little bit too much liquid, what we have to do is reduce it. Once the meat is done, we take the meat out. Simmering nicely at a very, look at that, very low setting. When the meat is tender, which this is now, and we will take it, put it on the plate. And the easiest thing to do is to just cut a little piece. That's pretty nice looking. It's not that watery. And I'm going to just cut a little piece of meat. Usually when you stick a fork in, like so, and it releases easy, the meat is cooked. So we're going to take just a little piece, like so, and just now, of course that meat is very dry. All the liquid has been cooked out of it, the moisture. But what we have here is just pot roast meat. And what it needs is what's in here. And that has a very slight, not pleasant lemon flavor. So what I'm going to do is a couple of choices. If the meat cools just a little bit, either cut it in cubes, put it back in here, or slice it and lay it in here until it's time to serve. But what you have to do is taste what's in here. It has the heat, which I'm getting, so we don't have to spice it up anymore. The flavor is pleasant. A drop more salt will bring everything up just a little bit. And for the amount of meat that's there, you do need enough liquid as you're eating it. So I'm going to just reduce this for about 10 minutes, maybe even less. Raise the flame. Well, this worked out perfect. What I did was, if you slice it, it's not really brisket style meat, which has a lot of fat in it, so you can almost eat it by itself. This meat is very lean, and I reduced it. No thickening agents were used, and look how nice and heavy that is, which is good because as you're chewing the meat and this heavy sauce is in your mouth, it won't seem so dry. That's what I dislike about using I-round for braising. That's extremely dry, worse than this. And I would say that the amount here is, I wouldn't go more than 2 people, sorry to say, because you'll have 2 people that if they want seconds will enjoy it. And there it is. A little Middle East flavor with a little American flavor mixed together. That's what the whole world's about. Mixing up things, especially in cooking. You could do whatever you want as long as it tastes good. And that's what this is. Something that tastes good. Enjoy.